Welcome to Father and Son. Good morning, Tom.
Morning, Dad.
On this Tuesday morning. Well, we saw the debate over the weekend. I don't think it rated quite as well as the cooking show.
MasterChef.
Who do you think won?
Look, I think Gillard probably won just a bit, and I'll tell you why. Leaving aside the worm and all that sort of thing, which I think was probably rigged depending on which channel you watched. Julie Gillard at the moment is a more polished presenter. I think Abbott has been hobbled a bit ever since he made the surprising admission on the 7:30 report a month or so ago that you couldn't trust everything he said. He's been told by his minders, stick on message, don't get passionate, don't be seen to be attacking Julia. So as a result, I think she came across a little better. Having said that, to be honest, neither one of them had any great policy announcements of substance. So I think as a debate, it was a bit flat. I'd give it to Gillard by a nose.
Well, I disagree with you, and the reason I do is that I think all she did was spin out all this nonsense. Spin. You want to go forward and not backward, and she didn't say, I really want to do things for education, and we're going to do things for health. There was nothing specific. At least he had some specific statements where he, we're going to reduce the immigration down to 170,000. Very specific. She's got nothing specific. He said, obviously our job will be to chase the deficit down, reduce the debt. And I thought he was a bit more particular than she was, and she was too much spin. It's very interesting, Tom, that it's come out this morning from Gary Morgan's office. They did a poll before and after the debate, and the Liberal vote has gone up 1.5% since the debate. Now that means it was, from all reports in the papers, 52-48. That'd make it 50.5,
49.5, which is very close.
And I think it's going to be a very close election.
Oh, look, I don't disagree the election will be close. I was purely talking about the debate. But I do think that Abbott is avoiding being seen to attack Gillard. And for example, you mentioned immigration. And there was Julie Gillard talking about a regional approach to vote people and all that sort of thing. I would have thought Tony Abbott, the moment she said that, should have been able to leap in and say, look, that was our policy. You told us it was criminally wrong before the last election, that is having offshore processing of asylum seekers. Now you're doing it. How can anybody trust you? But there was this reluctance on his behalf to tackle her on Labor's inconsistencies. Sadly, it'll be the only debate. I think a couple more, they both might warm up a bit. They could possibly change the format. But the astonishing thing is in this country, the debate was on 3 channels, 7, 9 on the ABC, and yet one channel show afterwards, MasterChef, beat them all put together.
Yeah. Oh, well, MasterChef, which I've never seen, is very popular.
I've never watched it either.
I think it's going to be very interesting because the Liberals could win up to 8 seats in Queensland.
Yes.
I've been told by powers that be in the Liberal Party that they're certain to win 5. There's about 3 seats in the West that they could win. There's a couple here in Victoria, and there's several in New South Wales and even Tasmania. So I think it's going to be a very close result.
That's right, and as always, you need to be careful not to look at overall polls because we don't have a presidential style system where all the votes are just tallied up and done across the national average. It is what people think in those marginal seats. And Queensland, I agree, will be interesting because I still sense there's a lingering sense of resentment that Kevin Rudd, even though he might have been losing popularity, was turfed out the way he was. Of course, he is a Queenslander, and I think there might be a lot of voters up there who won't take kindly to what Julia Gillard did.
I think that's right, and I think the gloss is coming off Julia Gillard day by day, in my view. She stuffed up, this morning on 2GB in Sydney about when this saving of company tax is going to come in. She said 2012, and in fact the budget documents say 2014.
Yes, it's 2014. I think it's 1 year earlier for small businesses, but pardon me, look, there are details like that, and there was another issue we were talking about on radio this morning where the federal government has used the image of a mentally disabled man in his 50s who lives in an aged care facility, and they've used him in a picture with Julia Gillard. His carer, which is his sister-in-law, never gave permission for the picture to be used, and the Prime Minister's office struggled to apologise. But look, these sorts of relatively small stuff-ups are to be expected in the course of an election campaign.
Well, they're both inexperienced. The first campaign as leaders, they're not easy and you're under pressure continually. But I think Abbott's doing better than I thought he would. And I think, again, the Liberal Party would have been very relieved and relaxed after that debate because he didn't stuff up.
Well, that's true, although it's interesting if you watch Q&A on Monday night, Malcolm Turnbull went up against Penny Wong, and it must be said, even though he agrees with her on a lot of environmental issues, really took the government's policies, tore them apart, says this is what the coalition would do better, and he was very impressive, and I still think remains a force to be reckoned with in the next Parliament, and if the Liberals were to win government, he should certainly be considered for a cabinet position again.
Well, certainly will be, but if the Liberals win the next Parliament, he'll never be Prime Minister because Abbott will be entrenched in that job for as long as he wants.
Well, that's right.
At least 2 elections.
Look, Labor's obviously worried about this election. That's why they got rid of Rudd. If Labor loses, it means that apart from one 3-year period from 2007 to 2010, they will have been out of power potentially for the best part of 2 decades by the time that the next Liberal government were to lose. And that's a serious rejection of the Labor message. So it is a very important election. It's not an interesting election in the sense that neither party, I think, has been particularly inspiring. But who knows, it may be, it'll be a very close race to the finish.
I agree with you. Right, is there anything else we need to talk about? I'll tell you what is interesting. The independent commission that is looking at the water in the whole Murray-Darling system has delayed its independent report till after the election. Now, somebody's got to, or it has to be the government.
Well, the thing with these reports, I mean, it's the same with the Bushfires Commission here in Victoria. They delay, then the answer comes out isn't what the various government that commissioned the report actually wants to hear. And so these sorts of commissions, sadly, are not as independent as they should be. And the idea that you should delay things for an election is wrong. And interestingly, when it comes to interest rates, the Reserve Bank has gone out of its way to show how non-partisan it is. Of course, in the 2007 election, they put up rates during the election campaign, something that John Howard saw as very damaging. And there is a possibility that interest rates will go up next week. That's the first week of August, depending on inflation data, which is out tomorrow. So economically speaking, that inflation data is very important.
There was a report I see, it came out over the weekend, that growth in Victoria is slowing, and the guy who announced this, I don't know who did it, said that, this is another example why interest rates shouldn't go up.
Well, there's always winners and losers with interest rates. There's always some sections of the economy growing faster than others. You only have one rate of interest for everybody, and hence when you get statements like two-speed economies, mining states doing well, manufacturing states doing not so well, it's very difficult to have an interest rate policy that applies to everyone. But the Reserve Bank, rightly or wrongly, focuses on inflation. If inflation's going up, they won't hesitate to act.
I agree. All right, that's it for this week. We'll see you all next week. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.